This call is now taking notes.
Okay. I can give you a
This
lot of
call is now
references
being recorded.
from Grey's Anatomy. Oh, House MD. Oh, I can give you references from House MD also. I watched that as well. Good Doctor also I've watched. उसमें से भी मैं दे सकती हूँ. Yes. Then Friends. Okay, मैं न्यूरोसाइक का एग्जाम्पल क्या ही दूंगी फ्रेंड्स से. But okay, I'm up for the challenge. Let's see. Let's see. What about The Office and what about um Brooklyn Nine-Nine? I don't know, but मैं उसमें से क्या ही एग्जाम्पल दूंगी. Modern Family. Yes. Yes, yes. How I Met Your Mother also. Yes. Okay, great. चलो तो मॉडर्न फैमिली टू. हाँ हाँ मॉडर्न फैमिली. बट मैं उसमें से क्या ही एग्जाम्पल दूं. शिट्स क्रीक. हाँ, ऑल दीज शोज आई वॉच्ड. बिग बैंग थियरी आल्सो आई वॉच्ड. ठीक है विल सी. मुन्ना भाई एमबीबीएस. ओके देन फाइन. ओके चलो लेट्स स्टार्ट. बिफोर वी स्टार्ट विद द एमसीक्यूज. हाँ, फ्लीबैग आल्सो आई वॉच्ड. Okay. Before that, let's start with a little bit of revision before we start with today and the MCQs, etc. Okay, quickly, can anyone tell me what all we studied so far? पहले lecture में we had talked about Nora the Explorer, correct? And हमने action potential की बात की थी, हमने resting potential की बात की थी. Can anyone very quickly tell me about action potential and resting potential? Guys, quickly बताओ. Do you all remember anything? इतना बड़ा क्वेश्चन पूछ लिया. हाँ ना. Yes. -70, -55. Yes, action is at -55. Resting is at -70. Are we sure about that? Correct. Yes. And did we also learn about the absolute refractory period? Yes, no. Hyperpolarization. Correct. Perfect. Wait, quickly I'll show you that graph. This one. This is the most important graph. And especially for your, what do we say? Net exams. This is very important because they keep asking you very confusing questions on hyperpolarization, depolarization, repolarization. तो ये graph तो बिल्कुल याद रखना, ठीक है? So, yes, correct. So -70 resting potential. Nora is chilling, ठीक है? Then -55 से अपना action potential spike होना start होता है, right? Then depolarization, repolarization and hyperpolarization. Hyperpolarization means अभी खत्म, अभी बहुत negative हो गया inside of the neuron, correct? +30 is hyper, perfect. Hey, +30 is not hyper. What are you saying? Repolarization is +30. Huh, correct. Yes, fine. So this part is clear. And are we also clear about sodium potassium channels and sodium potassium pump? Yes, sodium potassium pump क्या करता है? 3Na out, 2K in. And sodium channel क्या करता है? Voltage gated क्या करता है? Correct. It only lets Na into the neuron. तो sodium channel कभी कभी ही open होता है, very briefly. Whereas sodium potassium pump, what does it do? It is always active. Yes, 3:2. Perfect. Then we started with the main nervous system, structure of the nervous system on day 2. Yes, usme we had spoken about the CNS and the PNS, and we started diving into the PNS. We spoke about meninges, dura mater, arachnoid matter, pia matter. And अगर इसमें से किसी को कुछ issue हो जाता है, meningitis होता है. Yes. Then we spoke about the ventricular system. We spoke about there being 4 ventricles: lateral, third, cerebral aqueduct, fourth ventricle. All of them are filled with CSF. Quickly, can someone tell me what does CSF do in the chat box? Cushion, protects, yes. Cushions the brain, shock absorber, reduces weight, perfect. Very good. Nourishes the brain. Right, and this is what we learned. It starts flowing, the CSF starts flowing from the lateral ventricle, goes to the third, then the cerebral aqueduct, then fourth, then around the brain, gets reabsorbed into the blood. Yes. फिर blood से वो what organs in your body help filter that out? We had talked about that, no? Your liver, your kidney, correct? And then we also spoke about hydrocephalus. Yes. Next, we spoke about the development of the CNS. We spoke about the embryonic stage, fetal stage. We spoke about this, how our neurons and our glial cells are formed from neural stem cells. ठीक है? Hydrocephalus क्या था? Can anyone explain? Meena is asking, what is hydrocephalus? Correct, Jennifer, very good. CSF build-up. Okay. So if CSF has nowhere to go, it will start accumulating in the brain. Pressure in the brain. Perfect. Right? Then we spoke of gray matter, white matter. We spoke about gray matter is composed of what, by the way? Why is white matter white in color and why is gray matter gray in color? Can someone quickly tell me? Yes, cell bodies of neurons, but where? Gray matter, perfect. White matter because correct, myelin sheath, correct, correct. Then we spoke of this embryonic subdivisions. And I told you this looks overwhelming. It is okay if you don't remember all of this. This was just for you to get some kind of context. Okay? And then we started looking at this particular diagram. I mean the table. अभी ये table बिल्कुल गौर से देखना बार बार. I will keep this table. This table will keep appearing every now and then. Okay, because this is again very important when you are prepping for net. Last night, like before you give the net, when you are quickly revising biopsych, there are certain things which have to be very handy. Your graph, the graph that I had shown before, and this table, this is enough for your revision. Okay. So this table will keep making appearances. So we had spoken about the telencephalon. We spoke about cerebral cortex. We had spoken about 4 lobes. What were the 4 lobes? Quickly. 4 lobes of the brain. Come on, you all know this. Frontal lobe, yes. Then temporal lobe, occipital lobe, parietal lobe. Perfect. In one line, can someone tell me what these lobes do? What does frontal lobe do? Frontal lobe focus, yes, perfect. Executive functions, yes. Then decision making, correct. Problem solving, higher function. Okay. Occipital vision, perfect. Then temporal क्या करता है? Turin talk, yay, Palak remembers this, very good. Auditory, yes. Then parietal lobe, somatosensory, posture, perfect, very good. Proprioception, yes, perfect. All right. Then we spoke about cerebral nuclei, basal ganglia, amygdala, basal forebrain. Yes. Basal ganglia के बारे में हमने क्या बात की थी? Basal ganglia basically is involved in movement control, right? Starting, stopping, regulating voluntary movements. So what disorder did we speak about in basal ganglia? Parkinson's, yes. Tics, yes. Very good. Then we spoke about amygdala. We spoke about what does amygdala? Correct. OCD also. Perfect. Tourette's, yes. What does amygdala do? Fear and emotion. Correct. And amygdala basically helps you create memories, right? Acha also. This is something that you all need to remember. We did not really talk about hippocampus in the earlier lecture, nor are we going to talk about it today, because there are many areas of the brain. But there is something that I absolutely want you to remember. When we talk about memory, many people think that hippocampus is memory because that is what we do, right? We think of one brain area and we associate it with one function for convenience. So many people think the moment someone says memory, matlab hippocampus. But hippocampus does what of that memory? Correct, LTM, correct. Hippocampus क्या करता है? STM से LTM, LTM से STM, correct. But our memory is just that. Memories have to do with so many things, right? So when you talk about memories, you have to think about three things. Yes, Kritika, consolidation, perfect. Three things. When you talk about normal, taking information from LTM to STM, STM to LTM, you have to think of hippocampus. When we talk about declarative memory, you have to think about hippocampus. However, when we speak about emotional memories, we have to think about amygdala. ठीक है? And another third thing, cerebellum, जिसके बारे में हम आगे सीखेंगे in today's class. When we think of anything which has to do with procedural memory, you have to think of cerebellum. ठीक है? ये बिल्कुल याद रखना. Fine? Yes. All right. So fine. Let's start with today's lecture now. We are done with the revision. I hope all of you are very much, we both of us are on the same page. And now let's start with today's class. So first we start with MCQs. Okay. Quickly you have to respond. Okay. Which structure is not part of the brainstem? Q. What? Q तो option में ही नहीं है. What are you guys seeing? This is also something that I'm going to address in the class. Many people get confused about brainstem. तो इसके बारे में हम पढ़ेंगे अच्छे से, ठीक है? But yeah, tell me quickly. You can't see the PPT, Sarah. I think I am sharing the screen. I think there must be some issue with your. Okay. Quickly. Midbrain is not part of the brainstem. You know what? I'm not going to answer this question. We will let our brain marinate in this doubt. Okay. I'll get back to this when I'm teaching you the brainstem wala part. Cool? तुम लोग सोचते रहो तब तक. Now, next, what does the hypothalamus mean? What does the hypothalamus control? Quickly. Yes, perfect. Hunger, thirst, body temperature, hormones, yes. Next, damage to the substantia nigra leads to Parkinson's disease, actually. B. Okay. Next, which structure is called the bridge because it connects the cerebrum to the cerebellum? Okay, many people are giving a lot of answers, like all different answers I'm getting here. Why? What do you all think it is? Some people are saying thalamus. How? The answer is pons. Okay. Yes, it is A. Next. The third ventricle lies in which brain region? What do you think it is? Third ventricle. Now I told you that this is the time when your table will come to your rescue. ठीक है, क्योंकि वो टेबल पे ये भी लिखा है which ventricles are included. ठीक है? The answer is A. Diencephalon. Okay, fine. Chalo, so let's start with today's class. Like I said, this table will keep making appearances. So you must remember this. You must draw it in a notebook. Okay. Now, we are done with telencephalon. Today, we are going to be talking about the diencephalon, mesencephalon, metencephalon, diencephalon, and the spinal cord. I plan to finish all of these today. I know it sounds like a lot, but it's easy only, don't worry. Fine. Starting with the diencephalon. Acha, by the way, now I'm going to close the chat box. I'm not going to see whatever you ask me. Abhi mera sab explanation khatam hone ke baad I will open the chat box. Cool? Yes? All right, fine. Let's begin. Okay. So now when we talk about The diencephalon. Diencephalon is basically a part of your forebrain, okay, and it is located around your third ventricle. And it has two primary structures, thalamus and the hypothalamus. Now, what does thalamus do? Thalamus is your brain's relay station, okay. So even before we start reading as to what I've written here in the PPT, I want you to think of thalamus as the CR of your class. Everyone has a class monitor, class representative, right? When you are in college or when you are in school, correct? So we'll talk about college. So see, let's say if there are a lot of students in your class and they have certain concerns. Now, every single student is not going to be allowed to approach the HOD or approach the dean of the college or approach the principal, right? There is a certain kind of hierarchy which we try to maintain. तो क्या होता है, if students have certain concerns, they go tell their CR, फिर CR decide करता है कि अच्छा, how much of this is relevant? Should I take this ahead? Is this concern something that you can manage on your own, or is this something that okay needs to be taken care of by some authority? Now the CR will decide कि okay पहले किससे बात करनी है, क्लास टीचर से बात करनी है, कोर्स कोऑर्डिनेटर से बात करनी है, HOD से बात करनी है, right? So CR does all of that, right? Like relaying messages from the students to the HOD or to the course coordinator or to the class teacher, right? Thalamus is like that. Thalamus क्या करता है? It receives sensory input, okay, and it sends it to appropriate cortical areas. मतलब thalamus is going to decide कि जो भी sensory message आता है, except olfaction, except smell, okay. Thalamus says कि every sensory message is going to pass through me. I will decide which part of the cerebral cortex it should go to. ठीक है? That is why it is called the relay station of the brain. Let's say मुझे sensory information आता है, like I'm seeing things, ठीक है? So I will decide, okay, this seems like visual information. Let me send it to occipital lobe. Obviously, I'm simplifying it very much. ऐसे directly ऐसा नहीं होता है कि I get visual information and then directly I send it to occipital lobe. There's a lot of things that happen in between. But just for you to understand, if I get some auditory information, then I'm going to decide the nuclei in the thalamus is going to decide, okay, this seems like auditory information, this will go in the temporal lobe, something like that. Okay. So thalamus basically has multiple nuclei inside of it. Okay. And each nucleus is dedicated to a specific sensory pathway. Okay. So when you talk about nucleus, there are two things which you must keep in mind. Okay. There is something known as LGN and there is something known as MGN. LGN basically means lateral geniculate nucleus. Okay, and MGN stands for medial geniculate nucleus. Now, what do they do? LGN basically receives input from your retina. Okay. Now, like I said, think of thalamus as this room जहाँ पे ऐसे subject experts बैठे हैं. ठीक है. Now think of it in this way कि the CR comes and the CR recognizes कि अच्छा ये ना biopsychology related doubt है, तो हमें स्नेहल मैम के पास लेके जाना पड़ेगा. तो if thalamus is like a conference room sort of a place, then I am sitting in one of the chairs, CR comes to me and tells me कि मैम biopsych related ये concern है. तो think of it in this way कि thalamus के conference room में ऐसे LGN बैठा है, MGN बैठा है, ठीक है. Now it receives input from the retina. LGN is going to receive input from the retina. तो वो decide करता है कि अच्छा ये तो visual input है, ठीक है, तो ये primary visual cortex के पास जाएगा, मतलब where in your occipital lobe. Similarly, there is MGN, which is medial geniculate nucleus. It is going to receive input from your ear, inner ear to be precise. Okay. So it is going to be like, acha, ye to auditory information hai. So this should go to primary auditory cortex, which is your temporal lobe. Fine. So ये तो हो गया कि thalamus is your relay center. Now you also have to understand that thalamus also plays a role in your consciousness. It also plays a role in your motor integration. ठीक है? Now thalamus is damaged. So a lot of things are going to get affected. Because like I said, it is your relay center, right? If information is only not getting passed, then how is your cortex supposed to make sense of it? Right? Then you have your hypothalamus. Hypo means below, hyper means above or high. Hypothalamus itself means what? That it is below the thalamus. So what does hypothalamus do? It controls your ANS, which is your autonomic nervous system, and your endocrine system. Endocrine system कैसे control करता है? Via pituitary gland. So what does it do? It regulates the functions of your body. It is going to regulate your body temperature, hunger, thirst, circadian rhythm, sexual behavior. So one thing that you can remember is it is associated with 4 F's. Flight, sorry, I've written 4, but then यहाँ पे मैंने meeting लिखा है. Anyway, point is it is associated with fighting, fleeing, feeding. Yeah. So fight, flight, fright, and mating. Okay? And it is divided into 3 parts. It is divided into lateral hypothalamus, ventromedial hypothalamus, and anterior hypothalamus. Now, these 3, especially these 2, are very, very important. I'll tell you why. A, it keeps coming in net examinations. Like they keep asking you questions about satiation, and if a rat is hungry, if the rat is not able to eat, then what area is implied, vagera. Plus, those of you who are preparing for MPhil, clinical psychology, these 2 things very important. I have myself given NIMHANS entrance thrice. Okay, and इसमें से कुछ ना कुछ question आता रहता है. So please keep this in mind. Now I'll tell you what it is. All right. So when you talk about hypothalamus, like I said, it is divided into lateral hypothalamus, ventromedial hypothalamus, and anterior hypothalamus. But even before we go there, let's understand what does hypothalamus do. It serves homeostatic functions. Okay. Homeostatic functions matlab it tries to maintain balance in your body. And it is sort of a main player when it comes to you experiencing a lot of emotions, especially high intensity emotions. When you are highly aroused, when you are feeling a lot of anger, when there is some kind of aggressive behavior that you see. Okay, so hypothalamus क्या करता है? एक तो it tries to play a role here in emotional experiences. And like I said, it also helps control a lot of hormonal functions. And it is also involved with the autonomic nervous system. So when I talk about homeostatic functions, what does hypothalamus do? It sort of all the self-regulatory processes that exist that help maintain equilibrium within the body, usme hypothalamus is involved. Okay. So all the receptors which exist in the hypothalamus are going to regulate your metabolism, your temperature, also water balance. Okay, and isme se if any of the functions is sort of out of balance, the hypothalamus is going to detect the problem and it is going to signal the body to correct the imbalance. Okay, so you have to keep this in mind. And hypothalamus is also important when it comes to drive behaviors, that is hunger, thirst, sexual behavior. I've already spoken about that. Now comes this important part which I said, which you must remember. Lateral hypothalamus. Okay. Lateral hypothalamus is basically referred to as your hunger center. Okay. Why is it so? Because it has special receptors which sort of detect when your body is going to need more food or when your body needs more fluids. ठीक है. So the lateral hypothalamus basically tells you कि तुमको कब खाना खाना चाहिए, कब पानी पीना चाहिए. Talks about when to begin eating or when to begin drinking. ठीक है. Now a lot of experiments have been done on lab rats, right? So it was seen that when this part of the hypothalamus is destroyed, the lateral hypothalamus, the rats refuse to eat and they refuse to drink also. In fact, the refusal is so much that they would rather starve to death. Okay. So the only way to sort of keep them alive is to force feeding them. So remember, when it comes, when we talk about lateral hypothalamus, one way you can remember this is lateral hypothalamus. If there is a lesion to it, then you're going to lack hunger. LH, LH. Okay. Another thing that you need to remember is lateral hypothalamus also plays a role in rage and fighting behaviors. Okay. One way you can, sort of, acha, have you all watched that Snickers ka ad? Hangry kya, grab a Snickers. Yes. So basically, when you're very, very hungry, what happens? You start, being very angry. You start, jo bhi aaju baaju hoga, you'll start like scolding them, or like you'll get frustrated. Why does that happen? Because your lateral hypothalamus is getting activated here. क्योंकि भूख लग रही है ना. Then you have ventromedial hypothalamus. Ventromedial hypothalamus, also known as VMH. Okay. Now this is your satiety center. ठीक है. Satiety center मतलब मुझे पता चल रहा है कि अच्छा अभी मेरा पेट भर चुका है, अभी I don't want to eat more. It tells you when you had enough to eat. So if there is a brain lesion meaning some kind of injury, if there is some lesion to this area, then what will happen? You're not going to understand only when to stop eating. So if there is some issue with this, it is going to lead to obesity, right? So you can think of it in this way. If there is a lesion to your ventromedial hypothalamus, VH, you're always going to be very hungry. Okay, so LH lacks hunger, VH very hungry. Yes, and this obviously you have to remember when there is a lesion. Okay, now you also have to remember that when I said hypothalamus has to do with emotional experiences. So its main job is to manage the fight and flight response, okay, which is associated with your sympathetic nervous system. Okay. Now, another thing, third thing was anterior hypothalamus. Okay, what does it do? If electrical stimulation is given to anterior hypothalamus, it causes increase in aggressive sexual behavior. Okay. In fact, it was seen that if this anterior hypothalamus is damaged, like there is some kind of lesion or something, it leads to permanent inhibition of sexual activity. Okay. So again, if you want to remember it, so anterior starts with A. तो अगर anterior hypothalamus को कुछ damage होता है, so it is going to lead to asexual behavior. All right. And yeah. So please remember that this plays a role in arousal. Okay. So basically your 4 F's, if you're trying to summarize the role of hypothalamus: feeding, fighting, fleeing, and functioning. What kind of functioning? Sexual functioning. Cool? Are we clear with this? All right. Now, like I said, this table will keep making appearances. So far we've spoken about telencephalon, we've spoken about barencephalon. and is associated with the third ventricle. Now you may be thinking, why is retina written here? How is retina a part of your brain? Now you have to understand when we try to understand the brain structure. ठीक है, एक होता है स्ट्रक्चरल डिमार्केशन, एक होता है फंक्शनल डिमार्केशन. ठीक है, so far we've been speaking about the functional aspects of it. But remember that embryologically speaking, developmentally speaking, the retina develops from the diencephalon. ठीक है, तुमको वो न्यूरल ट्यूब याद होगी and how it bulges into 3 parts, right? So retina develops from the diencephalon. But specifically speaking, again, now this is not really important from the exam point of view, but it's a good, like some good amount of information to have. So specifically speaking, there is this pouch sort of a thing in the diencephalon, which is called the optic vessel. ठीक है, sorry, vesicle, optic vesicle. So this retina develops from that area. So this is all structurally speaking. ठीक है, so even though the retina is functionally a part of your visual system, it is derived from the diencephalon during the developmental period. Okay, that is why retina is given here. But we are not going to dive into it because right now we are only talking about things from the functional point of view. Okay, we'll talk about retina in tomorrow's class. Tomorrow, nahi, matlab whenever we are meeting, because I will be covering the sensory system there. Fine. Now we'll move on to mesencephalon, which is your midbrain. Now, mesencephalon has two things, tectum and tegmentum. Tectum has two things, superior colliculi, inferior colliculi. Tegmentum has red nucleus and substantia nigra. So let's look at it one by one. See, I've put this diagram. Again, this diagram will make appearance later in the slides. And like I said, I know this is overwhelming. It is okay. I don't expect you to register all of it today itself. ठीक है, बस देख लो. So your tectum lies here and your tegmentum lies here. ठीक है. Now let's understand what it does. Tectum basically is the roof, ठीक है, in your midbrain. And like I said, it houses two things, superior colliculi, inferior colliculi. Superior colliculi क्या करता है? Okay, think of नोरा द एक्सप्लोरर. ठीक है, ऐसे इमेजिन करो कि नोरा पूरे ब्रेन में घूम रही है, क्योंकि अभी अभी उसको पता चला है कि ब्रो आई एम नॉट अलोन, देयर आर सो मेनी अदर पीपल विथ मी. सो नाउ इमेजिन नोरा हाइकिंग अप टू mesencephalon. Okay, now Nora finds out that there is something known as superior colliculi. So superior colliculi sort of greets Nora and they tell her, listen, we control visual reflexes. Visual reflexes meaning, let's say when something moves suddenly, I'm immediately going to turn my head, right? That is a visual reflex. So superior colliculi does that. Visual tracking, orienting movements. Superior colliculi is involved in that. And then you have inferior colliculi. So when inferior colliculi is like are introducing themselves to Nora, the explorer, they are telling her that we control auditory reflexes. For example, if I hear a loud sound, I'm going to jump, right? So inferior colliculi is important here. So basically, अगर तुम horror movie देख रहे हो, ठीक है, whatever, like for all the reasons we watch horror movies, ताकि हमें डर लगे, and that thrill that we get, अगर superior colliculi या inferior colliculi में कुछ damage है, तो we won't be able to enjoy the horror movie in the first place. ठीक है. So keep that in mind. So when it comes to inferior colliculi, it has to do with auditory reflexes. Okay. Now understand, I'm using the word reflexes here. So basically, tectum ka function is going to be very reflexive in nature. It is not going to require any kind of conscious processing. Okay. तो अगर इसमें कोई लीजन आ जाता है टेक्टम में, ठीक है, तो क्या होगा? There is going to be impaired startle response. You are going to have a very slowed reaction to stimuli. So let's say you are in a haunted house, okay, and there is this ghost who's trying to scare you. If there is some lesion in your tectum, wo ghost is going to be very disappointed because you're not going to be scared only. You're going to react so slowly. The ghost will be like, okay, fine, doesn't matter. I'm leaving. Right? Then you have your tegmentum. Okay. Now Nora says bye bye to tectum. वो बोलती है ठीक है चलो मैंने रूफ देख लिया. Now is the time to look at the floor. So tegmentum is your floor. Now Nora meets three people here, three structures here. Your red nucleus, your substantia nigra, okay. Firstly, yeah, these two things predominantly actually, red nucleus and the substantia nigra. So now when red nucleus is trying to introduce itself to Nora, it is going to say that I help coordinate motor movements, okay, especially all the limb movements, okay. And substantia nigra is going to say कि hi Nora, I produce dopamine, ठीक है, मैं dopamine produce करता हूँ and then I send it to basal ganglia to help control movement. तो Nora बोलती है, oh my god, so what if you stop making dopamine? So substantia nigra says, if I stop making dopamine, then the person is going to experience what? Parkinson's disease. There's going to be tremors, there's going to be stiffness, there's going to be a lot of slow movement. ठीक है, तो अगर substantia nigra का degeneration होता है, so there is going to be less dopamine, right? So there is going to be a lot of tremors, there's going to be rigidity, right? Something known as shuffling movements. Okay? So that is what tegmentum is composed of. Cool? So tegmentum done. Again, our table makes its appearance. We are done with telencephalon, diencephalon, mesencephalon, midbrain. Okay? Now time to look at these two structures, which is metencephalon and mylencephalon. Now remember there was this question about what part is not there in your brainstem, right? And I said, मैं उसका जवाब नहीं दूंगी. I want your brain to marinate in that thought. So now you'll get an answer. What is brainstem? Because right now, sorry, how do I go behind? Never mind. In the table which I had shown you, it did not really have the word brainstem written, right? So what is brainstem? Is the brainstem in the hindbrain or is it in the midbrain? What is it? The answer is both and neither. Because remember how I told you when we demarcate the brain for our understanding, there is a structural aspect to it and a functional aspect to it. अभी हम functional point of view से देख रहे हैं. ठीक है? Brainstem, that table is from the functional point of view. Brainstem is a structural division, not a functional brain region per se. Okay. So it is going to include parts of both the hindbrain and the midbrain, but some parts of it. Okay. So what is the brainstem going to include? It is going to include the midbrain. It is going to include pons, and it is going to include medulla. Okay. Now pons and medulla are in your hindbrain. Now notice there is something else in your hindbrain. Your medulla oblongata. Sorry, your cerebellum. Right? That is also there in your hindbrain. But do you see me writing it here? No. Because cerebellum is not a part of your brainstem. Remember this. And again, this is your structural division, not your functional division. Okay? Now with this understanding, we'll go ahead. We have metencephalon. ठीक है, metencephalon में क्या होगा? There is cerebellum and there is pons. Okay. What does cerebellum do? Cerebellum is basically at the top of your hindbrain. ठीक है, it is at the top. It is a structure which basically helps maintain posture, your balance. Okay, just a minute. My stylus stopped working. It maintains your posture. It maintains your balance. It coordinates body movements, right? And I told you, any kind of procedural memory, किसके वजह से होती है? Cerebellum की वजह से होती है. ठीक है? So, if there is damage to your cerebellum, it is going to cause clumsiness. Okay? It is going to cause slurred speech. It is going to cause loss of balance. So loss of balance से क्या याद आना चाहिए? Then people have too much of alcohol. They lose balance, right? Why? Because alcohol sort of impairs the functioning of the cerebellum. Similarly, alcohol also affects sleep, right? So that is something that you should remember. So basically, cerebellum का ये part होता है, and like I said, it is not a part of brainstem. Stem, remember that. Okay. Then we have pons. Now, is there anyone who has been watching Grey's Anatomy the current season? I'm opening the chat box right now only for this question. ठीक है? No, you all have not. What are you doing? You must watch Grey's Anatomy ka this current season. There are many seasons. I think we are on the 21st season right now. So those of you who have watched, you will get this. Okay, there is Amelia Shepherd's patient called Dylan. Okay, Abhi, I will tell you why I am talking about her here. So Dylan girl has this syndrome called locked-in syndrome. Locked-in syndrome matlab, there is complete paralysis of voluntary muscles except for blinking. So apart from blinking, the patient is not able to do anything else. ठीक है? मतलब the patient is conscious. Understand that. ऐसा नहीं है कि unconscious है. It very much conscious, but there is complete paralysis of voluntary muscles. So they are unable to move. They are unable to speak, and the only thing that they can do is they can blink. So if you watch Grey's Anatomy, in few of the episodes, like 2-3 episodes in the current season, you will see this girl. And you know how Amelia Shepherd is absolutely heartbroken because such a young girl and she's not able to talk. And, she also says, Amelia Shepherd also says that, I wouldn't ever wish locked-in syndrome to my worst enemy also because it's that bad. Now, why am I talking about this here? Because when there is a lesion to pons, ठीक है, तभी locked-in syndrome हो सकता है. ठीक है, there is pons का जो ventral section होता है, ठीक है, if there is some kind of damage there, if there is some kind of infarction there, then it leads to locked-in syndrome. But then basically let's try to understand first, what does pons even do? It is a part of your metencephalon, right? It is a part of your hindbrain. So it is located just above your medulla oblongata. ये diagram, sorry. Look at this diagram here. Pons variola is here, and your medulla is here. Okay, it is lying just above your medulla oblongata, right? And it lies ventral to. I remember we had spoken about directional planes, rostral, ventral, caudal, etc. So it lies ventral to your cerebellum. That is, it lies in front of your cerebellum. Now, pons, the word pons literally means bridge in Latin. So there was that MCU question, right? What is the bridge? So basically, pons is nothing but a bridge between different parts of your nervous system. तो तुम्हारे कॉर्टेक्स को तुम्हारे सेरिबेलम के साथ कनेक्ट करने वाला एरिया इज पॉन्स. ठीक है, इट ऑल्सो कनेक्ट्स योर स्पाइनल कॉर्ड विथ ऑल योर हायर ब्रेन सेंटर्स. and the fourth ventricle lies behind the pons. Okay. Now it also contains some part of your reticular formation. Okay, have you all heard about reticular formation? Very important. Again, very, very important from exam point of view. Both NET and MPhil. Questions आते रहते हैं इसके. Remember, reticular formation is important for 3 A's. Arousal, alertness, and attention. Okay. So it is sort of going to help you regulate your sleep-wake cycle. It is going to modulate your arousal and alertness. ठीक है. And अगर ये pons में से वो जो ventral side of pons है, अगर उसको lesion आता है, then there is going to be something known as the block 10 syndrome. ठीक है. So yeah, that's about that. So we are done with telencephalon, diencephalon, mesencephalon, and metencephalon, right? Now moving on to myelencephalon, which is your medulla oblongata. Again, I have put in another diagram for you to be able to visualize what exactly we're talking about. Our thalamus is here. Our midbrain is somewhere here. This is pons. This is our medulla oblongata. This is your cerebellum. Okay. So myelencephalon is nothing but your medulla oblongata. Now, it is basically literally the part of your brain which sort of keeps you alive. Why? Because it controls breathing. It controls heart rate. It controls blood pressure. I don't know if y'all had read this. There was some news which had come, I think 3-4 months ago. I'm not exactly sure about that. It was about a lady who had gone to this salon and she was getting a hair wash or hair spa or something. And she died there. Now, some of you who have ever had a hair wash done in salons, वो एक बड़ा सा एक सिंक होता है ना जिसपे they ask us to rest our head. Tell me how many of you have actually found it comfortable? I am reading the chat box right now. Do you all ever? Never, right? Never. Okay, Khushi is like new fear unlocked. So yeah, it is so uncomfortable. They make us like sit in such a way and they expect us to be like that only. And every time you try to, move a little, the person is going to be like, man, can you stop moving? As if you are giving us a very comfortable position. So yeah, तो क्या होता है वो that basin which is there, the way we rest our heads, the pressure is going to be put exactly on your medulla oblongata, right? So, and it like I said, it literally keeps you alive because your breathing, heart rate, blood pressure, all of that is taken care of by your medulla oblongata. So if there is some kind of damage, you're going to stop breathing and there's going to be an immediate risk of death. That is what happened with that woman also. Okay, so note for you when you go have a hair spa done or a hair wash done. No, that is not the moral of the story. I'm not saying you should not get your hair washed in salons. I'm just saying that I'm just saying be a little vigilant. And if at any point of time you're feeling absolute discomfort, you ask them to stop. Okay. Now, moving on. Yeah. So, abhi na, in your myelencephalon, that is your medulla oblongata, in front of this tube, you see here, there are two bumps, long bumps. Okay. These are called pyramids. So, inside these pyramids, there are wires. Okay. As in, there are nerve fibers. And they sort of carry your messages from your brain to your muscles. Okay. So basically, when your brain wants to tell your arms, legs, and hands what to do, those signals are going to travel through these pyramids. तो ऐसे imagine करो कि it is like a highway for movement commands. ठीक है? तो ये pyramids के bottom में क्या होता है कि most of these wires which are inside these pyramids, they cross over. Okay? This crossing over, very important term. It is called pyramidal decussation. Okay, very, very important to remember. Because this crossing over is the reason why your left brain controls your right hand and your right brain controls your left, like left side of the body. Okay, so please keep this in mind, very important. Now, again, like I said, this diagram has made an appearance again because now we know all of these areas. We know the cerebral aqueduct, we know the third ventricle, we know the fourth ventricle, we know the tectum, tegmentum, we know where pons is, what it does. We've spoken about the pyramid and we've spoken about the medulla oblongata. Correct? Now, last but not the least, we'll talk about the spinal cord. ठीक है, brain का part हो गया अभी, central nervous system का. Talking about the spinal cord, what does it do? It carries all the sensory information up to the brain. And so, time for my Picasso drawing. This is your brain. Okay? This is your brain. You will believe me when I say this. So, it carries information up to the brain and it takes the motor commands down to the body. Okay? Who does that? Your spinal cord does that. Okay? It controls reflexes without needing the brain. Okay? Now, I have a quick question to ask you. And here, I am going to look at the chat box. Do you think your vertebral column and your spinal cord are the same thing? No. Okay. Then what is the difference? I know this sounds like a very basic question, but sometimes y'all can mess that up also. Yes, vertebral column is bones. Perfect. Yes, correct. So, when you talk about the vertebral column, it is a bony structure, right? So, think about it in this way. अपना चार्जर होता है ना, चार्जिंग का जो वायर होता है. So, जो बाहर का एरिया है, that is like a vertebral column, right? Because that bahar ka wire is protecting the main inside of the wire, right? Which is important for, the delicate cable which lies inside it, which is important for charging. Usko wo protect karta hai na. So vertebral column is like that. Vertebral column protects the spinal cord from injury. So what is spinal cord? Spinal cord is a long, thin bundle of nervous tissue. Okay. And it runs from the brainstem, medulla oblongata, down through the vertebral column. Okay, so keep that in mind. And you must have learned this in school also, that spinal cord controls reflexes. Okay. So if there is something hot and if I accidentally touch it, मैं जब हाथ ऐसे निकालती हूँ, the pulling your hand behind, that action happens. Why? Because of your reflexes. Okay, because of the spinal cord. So it doesn't really require any kind of information from the brain. It immediately does that. Cool? Are we clear with this part? Yes? Fine. So basically, reflex arc is similar. हाँ, ये reflexes के बारे में बात करें. Fine. So with this, we are done with our central nervous system. Okay? So quickly, we'll try to sum it up with MCQs. And once we're done with that, and if we still have time, I'll take up questions if you all have any doubts. Works? Chalo, let's go. A lesion affecting the pyramids in the medulla will primarily cause what? What do you think? Perfect. Yes, it is going to cause weakness in the contralateral limbs. Because remember what I told you, what happens in the pyramids? The crossing over happens, no? Correct. Moving on. The reticular formation in the brainstem is primarily involved in correct. A, consciousness and arousal. All right. Next. What part of the nervous system controls a reflex like pulling your hand back? Oh, sorry. Pulling your hand back from a hot stove. Spinal cord, correct. Next. Which of the following is true about the lateral hypothalamus? हमने क्या बोला था? Let's quickly revise. We spoke about AH, VH, AH, right? Lateral, if there is a lesion to lateral hypothalamus, what is going to happen? You're going to, can someone tell me? LH. LH stands for lack hunger, correct. VH, अगर लीजन होता है तो क्या होगा? Very hungry. AH, लीजन हुआ तो asexual behavior, correct. So, which of the following is true about lateral hypothalamus? What does it do? It promotes satiety or does it promote hunger and eating? Correct. It is going to be B. It is going to be promoting hunger and eating. Satiety center is your ventral hypothalamus. इसीलिए अगर ventral hypothalamus को damage होता है तो क्या होता है? I don't understand only when I'm full. I'll keep eating. That is why it leads to obesity, right? Next. If the cerebral aqueduct were blocked, which brain region would accumulate cerebrospinal fluid? Now, this is related to our previous class. Okay, the answer is going to be B, third ventricle. Because what was the flow? Lateral ventricle, third ventricle, cerebral aqueduct, fourth ventricle. If the cerebral aqueduct is blocked, which region is going to be filled with CSF? Your third ventricle, isn't it? See, these are the kind of questions you will see in net. Like when you read it, no, in the first go, anyone will think fourth ventricle. Cerebral aqueduct block हो गया ना, तो fourth तक नहीं जाएगा, तो okay, it is going to be, that is the answer. But you have to read questions properly. ठीक है? You read it. What is it asking? If the cerebral aqueduct is blocked, which brain region is going to accumulate? If cerebrospinal fluid is not moving only to the fourth ventricle, because this is getting blocked, तो कहाँ पे accumulation होगा? Third ventricle. Yeah? Fine. All right, then that was the end of the session. And if we have 2-3 minutes, I will take up questions. Noor, yes, I will share the MCQs at the end of this lecture series. सब MCQs मैं साथ में भेज दूंगी. ठीक है? Yeah. In the first question, why did it only impact limbs? In the sense? No, it is not just about the limbs. The main aspect here is weakness in the contralateral part, right? मतलब the entire body का contralateral, exactly. Yes. What was the function of the red nucleus again? Can someone help? Can someone answer this? Function of red nucleus. What does red nucleus कहाँ है? Tegmentum में. What did I say? When red nucleus is trying to introduce themselves to Nora the Explorer, वो क्या बोलता है? It plays an important role in motor control, isn't it? Contralateral means opposite sides. I told you when we talk about the pyramids, the two main structures here, यहाँ से जो wires है अंदर, they are going to cross over. And that is why the left side of the brain controls the right side of the body. That is your, what do we say? Answer. ठीक है? Fine. Next. Pyramid का वापस एक बार बता लो. Okay. See. These are your pyramids, right? This part. So, what do these pyramids do inside the pyramids? There are these wire-like structures. Okay. They are called pyramids because they are very pyramid shaped bulges on the ventral side, that is front side of the medulla. तो ये जो wires जो मैं कह रही हूँ, if you want some jargon here, they basically contain, the pyramids contain motor nerve fibers. Okay. Basically these are pathways. ये हम और डिटेल में जब सेशंस लेंगे तब probably I'll explain. It is called corticospinal tracts. ठीक है? So what they do is they carry signals from the brain down to the spinal cord to control voluntary movements like your arms and legs. And that is why the answer was limbs, because that is a voluntary movement. Okay. So, sorry, ये change हो गया. हाँ. So, the bottom of the pyramids, यहाँ पे the nerve fibers are going to cross over to the other side. That is called decussation of pyramids. And that is why left side of your brain controls the right side of the body and vice versa. Okay? Did I answer your question? And now do you also understand why the answer was contralateral limbs and not the face? Yes? Okay, great. Any other questions? Otherwise, we'll wrap it up. Fine. Are we feeling confident about our NORA and our central nervous system? Nervous tissue का क्या? What question are you asking me about the nervous tissue? Nervous tissue is basically your brain, your spinal cord, your nerves. It is the main tissue of your nervous system, which is made up of neurons and neuroglia. Can you explain the last question? What was the last question? This? Okay, so remember what I had spoken about the CSF. I'll show you that diagram only. Previous class ka. एक minute. Oh God, there's so much. Where did it go? This. This part. You have your lateral ventricle, then your third ventricle. So सबसे पहले CSF is going to start flowing from the lateral ventricle, right? It goes to the third ventricle. This is your cerebral aqueduct, which connects it to the fourth ventricle. Now the question asked what? Question asked कि अगर cerebral aqueduct में कुछ blockage होता है, तो CSF is going to be accumulated where? It is going to be accumulated in your third ventricle. Because ये block हो गया ना, fourth ventricle में CSF नहीं जा पाएगा. Right? What was not a part of brainstem? Cerebellum was not a part of brainstem. ठीक है? All right. So I am hoping that we are a little bit clear with the structure of neuron and the action potential part and this CNS. Okay, the next time we meet, we are going to be talking about sensory systems. So your vision, your audition, touch, pain. PNS के लिए, we don't have time. We'll see. I'll try to talk about it very, very briefly in the next class or the class after that. We'll see, because I want to cover the endocrine system also, because neurotransmitter is important, hai na? So we'll see. PNS, I think more or less y'all are also aware of it because y'all have read things, right? Like in your college. So PNS itna difficult nahi hai. I'll try to include that in one of our sessions. We'll see. I'm not promising, but please give important topics for MPhil. First, Palak, we are going to focus on NET. MPhil का हम बाद में देखेंगे, but NET और MPhil का थोड़ा similar ही है. MPhil में थोड़ा ज्यादा biopsych heavy होगा शायद, but NET में also these people keep asking very confusing questions. ठीक है? Fine, all right. चलो, I'll wrap it up now. Shannon, if you're here, over to you.
Yeah. Also, for the advanced series, we'll also be focusing on MPhil as well, because Vape will cover both. So don't worry about that. यहाँ पे we can't do MPhil and net and cover foundation, so we are trying whatever we can for MPhil. But for the advanced series, which starts on the 3rd week of May, we will definitely be focusing on MPhil as well. Yes, Sarah, thank you so much. You can stop recording. Yes, thank you, Snehal. Everyone say bye to her.